providing subtitles of my presentation. Also, if you like, you can download a PDF file of this presentation. There's a lot of active links in the slides ahead. You may not want it now, but if on down the road you want it, just go ahead and click the sign that is stage left. Presentation slides in PDF. It also includes subtitles if you would like to read along while I go through this. You're welcome to do it. Just click that sign there and it will give you access to it. If not now, you may want it on down the road. Here is our topic today and a little bit about me. I start most meetings these days on virtual education with a preface that I am not advocating any particular platform. I'm not selling any services. I'm not looking for a job. I'm a 65-year-old professor. I'm doing just fine. I've been an adjunct educator with 25 years now experience at major universities, developing courses and new technologies. I've been an advocate for virtual world learning for more than 16 years now that I've been working on educational builds in Second Life. When I first started in Second Life, we're going to be looking back a little bit. It was engaging, enveloping, intoxicating, and seductive. You know what this platform is about, but it also chewed up way too many hours. I spent 2 hours just making sure my turtle had room to swim in its pond. You know how that is. Anything in Second Life is going to take about 3 hours. But these days, I'm trying to be much more disciplined when I come in. And actually what attracted this is, I've done 3 or 4 presentations now over the last decade for this fine organization. It was this intriguing conference theme this year that attracted to me. Many of the aspirations that we see now manifesting through our new technologies, well, they're ancient and even mythical in their origin. We had the all-knowing Oracle of Delphi, which is now the super Oracle cloud infrastructure. And instead of the Akashic record of every deed, word, and thought, we now have Facebook. And instead of the all-powerful Merlin, we have scientists who can grab electricity right from the thin air, and that is magic indeed. Instead of a cornucopia horn of plenty, we now have 3D printers pumping food, and we have gone from myths and fairy tales to real-world actualization of our dreams. If we have a fantasy, we can create it. What a wonderful time to be alive. And there are plenty of more contemporary visionaries in our time. Well, there was the presage-like vision of Neil Stephenson. He is known for coining the word metaverse, but he's also known for in an earlier book, envisioning an artificial intelligence device that also might serve as a personalized tutor, adapting to our learning style. Wasn't that prescient? He also foresaw cryptocurrency and geoengineered planets, along, of course, with the metaverse. And, you know, the metaverse, it is a wonderful world. He coined it. The commercial interests and carpetbaggers that we see now don't own the word metaverse, and they didn't originally envision it, but they sure have sullied it a little bit, at least in academia, as we'll be looking at momentarily. Then there was the original vision of Tim Berners-Lee. He conceived of the World Wide Web as an educational tool to be free from advertising, open to all, where success would be grounded in knowledge shared rather than profits reaped. Anybody here remember those days? Oh man, it was so heady. We felt like we were really heading into a new world. I don't think there's been anything quite like that since. I do feel sorry for the first person who posted an ad on the World Wide Web many years ago. They're probably still feeling the burn from the flaming they got. Anybody here remember that? We also jump ahead right now. Let's jump ahead to this current moment as we consider where we are today with our visions for virtual world learning. And for many years, I've been giving presentations on virtual world education to university administrators and department heads and program directors and other professors and educators and students. And lately, I've been giving live tours in world for visitors. And they come in through Zoom. And Zoom has actually been a surprisingly useful tool to demonstrate virtual worlds to hesitant visitors. I'm going to share some of their perceptions with you. Second Life actually looks pretty good in Zoom. There's just a slight lag as it feeds through, and there's no virtual world learning curve as they simply ride along through my avatar's eyes. It also addresses some of their top concerns I hear from first-time visitors to a virtual world, and that's who I'm primarily targeting: first-time administrators, first-time professors and students. Come and take a look. And their initial reaction, if they go in on their own, they say it's too scary, it's too intimidating, it's too complex, and they quickly check out. Or they just don't want to sign up for a new account just to come and visit and see what this is all about. So it really works well to do that. This region has been specifically designed to serve first and likely only time visitors. Mostly what we're set up is not to show how so much, but the why. Why should academia, why should scholars come in world? And sometimes that's the hardest question to answer at all. And simplicity is key. It's so they can walk a little and land and then come and sit in the auditorium. Minimal clicks, no poses, no note cards. And it's meant to minimize the cognitive overload and the system freeze that many first-timers suffer. So I've been presenting on virtual world learning for a number of organizations. Earlier this year, it was innovative educators. Teachers are very curious about the possibilities. Even if they're hesitant to jump in, they really want to know what this is about. So, hold on, I'm getting a teleport request. There we go. Hopefully we have another visitor coming in. Okay, I'm getting some messages here. I'm sorry I can't respond in a presentation, but I will take some questions when this is done. We also, here are some of the courses that I've been working on and designing for more than 20 years, helping to develop programs and curricula for state and nonprofit universities. These are the universities that I've especially been pitching the concept of virtual world possibilities to. I currently adjunct for 4 California universities. I've been with the University of California now since the year 2000. Any adjuncts in the room? Well, you know what that's all about. Working hard for very little pay and paying actually a lot out of our own pocket. In 2000, the year 2000, I developed the first online course component for the international program at UCSB. It was just a discussion board to help comfort some homesick international students between class sessions. And I had to work and work and work to get permission from the department heads to try an online discussion board. And finally, I got the permissions, but I still had to pay for it out of my own pocket and do it on my own time. Does that sound familiar? I mean, this feels very much like what we're going through now with virtual worlds and trying to sell that to hesitant administrators. More than half of the courses that I've taught are online, so the place has been limited to the learning platform, whether it was Blackboard or Canvas or Collaborate or Brightspace or whatever. These platforms, they provide a sense of gathering, but they don't provide a sense of place. We have somebody out there with a microphone open, it sounds like. I can't see quite who it is. I'm getting an earful from somebody. The presentations that I've made on virtual worlds and their uses as an educational platform, it's not as a virtual world social activity or an entertainment value that I've been presenting it on. I keep very much a focus on the educational component. Boy, I can't see where the open mic is out there, but boy, I'm getting an earful of it here. And I'm sorry if it's coming through over the recording. The presentations that I've made, I collect comments during those presentations from university officers, a president of a university, a vice president of innovation, program directors, a CEO of a global nonprofit education program, professors, students, course designers, educator training programs, virtual world organizations, board members. These are the people that I've been speaking to over the last 10 years. I'm sorry, boy, that's really going to come through on the recording here, possibly just eject them if they're not responding. Some of the comments I've heard over the years, they've not especially been kind, especially from educators who may have had an earlier experience in a virtual world. But let's not take offense at some of what may be considered a little insulting, but listen to what they have to say. Maybe your experience with administrators and educators and students is different from mine, and I'd like to hear about it if so. But here is my take. Right off the top, most of my presentations locally typically focus on their main question, which is, what about the headsets? Do I need to buy the headsets? They're very expensive headsets. Administrators saying that the students can't afford the headsets, and then they're faced with the fact that if I do buy the headset, it's going to be obsolete within 3 months as the newer ones come out. So this is the first encounter I get when I'm talking about virtual worlds, is that somehow over the metaverse hype, people have gotten the impression the only way to engage in virtual world learning is through a spendy 3D headset. And this is a message that may have been amplified by Meta, Facebook, Apple, Sony, and all the rest trying to pitch their 3D viewers. You know, already, if you've been watching the news reports, already we're starting to see the negative stories come out on Metaverse. Actually, it's already pretty well run through its cycle. Once the initial novelty and the headsets wear off, what I'm hearing is early participants are wondering really if it was such a smart investment after all. One innovation consultant told me that innovators, when he's working with innovators, they've been putting together these twin campuses. You've seen them in the metaverse. And he says these presidents, they speak of it in glowing terms on the record, but when the recorder stops, they start talking about the regrets and what else they could have bought for their hundreds of thousands of dollars. One piece of good news that I've been seeing lately in gatherings of college administrators is, rather than this confusing mishmash of terms over the years, whether it's an online course or remote, a high flex, distance learning, what they're calling it now, and I like this, is virtual learning has become an industry standard term, embracing much of what we do in education technology, including they use virtual learning to also include the metaverse within that. So the metaverse has now been relegated to a subset of virtual learning in the mind of administrators anyway. And I think that works out very well. I mean, that is the name of our program here, Virtual World Best Practices in Education. So I'm glad to see, virtual world learning, that already includes 3 of the words that have become common. There's a number of news stories that you may have seen that have helped to deflate the metaverse hype. You can get a copy of these slides, by the way. The top half has the subtitles. The bottom half of the PDF has these actual slides with active links. If there's any of these resources you want to check out, there's a number of them we'll be looking at before I'm done here. And the PDF, the sign there, stage left, has all the active links. If you want to follow this up a little bit more. What else have we seen? Well, the virtual reality glasses and headsets fell by 40% sales in 2023. It's looking pretty rocky for 2024 as well. Universities that I've been talking with, that I've been reading about, Another one of their concerns is, yeah, they've gotten grants to do this, a one-time grant, but they're going to be at loss for additional funding, as the funders' attention turns elsewhere to more pressing issues, such as declining revenues, artificial intelligence. That's more on their mind right now than the metaverse. There was an administrator. He is quoted in this story here. He says that multiverse technology, it's inevitable, it's coming, but he says it still has a long way to go. He predicts another 20 or 40 years before it becomes acceptable, at least in his mind as an administrator. You can get a copy of this article. That was from Inside Higher Education. There's a link to that on this slide. There's many commercial offerings right now already in place, competing for the mini metaverse campuses, the twin campuses, the classrooms, meeting space, customized service. These are the primary companies. There's some more that are coming out. Victory XR, it's been widely promoting its virtual reality platform and catalog of courses. They got a $2 million grant from Facebook to promote educational use, so they have a definite investment in that. Exxon Park created a twin campus for one of my universities, a national university. We'll take a look at that in a moment. I figure it's a vote of confidence in the concept. So many people are trying to make money off of all this that there must be something of value here. So I consider that a good sign. I'm coming at this very much from the perspective of a teacher rather than an entrepreneur or an administrator. We need entrepreneurs. They keep an essential focus on making money. We need academic administrators. They're very focused on making budgets. But I'm just a teacher. I think most of the people here are teachers. We may have a few administrators in the room. Sorry if I've insulted any of you along the way. But, teachers, we tend to be more focused on making a difference. And if teachers were so concerned with money, we certainly wouldn't be teachers, and we sure wouldn't be spending so much of our own money on teaching our students. Some of the places I teach, UCLA, I've been teaching there for, about a dozen years or so. They were experimenting with a virtual campus and a metaverse build. UCLA built a twin campus in Minecraft. Hasn't gotten a lot of use from what I've seen. Interestingly, it was paid for with Bruin gaming funds rather than academic money. Another of my universities, National University, I've been teaching with them for about 10 years. They recently unveiled, it was a $200,000 grant-funded metaverse. It was a build of a twin campus of National University to support its nursing program. Plus, they received another $75,000 to purchase 70 headsets and software programming. The university president, and he's quoted in this media release here. Again, you can get a copy of that by the PDF slides. He says, knowingly that there's a long way to go before this technology is effectively practical and affordable. We're going to see some more of his quotes coming up on all this. Philip Rosedale, well, there's a name familiar to many in the room here. He was the Virtual World founder, Second Life, and Sansar. And he shared some insights into the metaverse that's resonated with me anyway, my educator's perspective. He says, certainly we need to be wary of privacy and targeting issues if the metaverse is primarily designed by commercial interests, which it is right now. The 3D metaverse is primarily commercial. And then we have to worry about all the surveillance data gathered in spaces where we don't even know how the advertising is cloaked. And Rosedale says we shouldn't even go a little way down that road. I certainly agree with him there. He also says that these virtual reality headsets for the fully 3D immersive experience, he says they're not quite ready for prime time play yet. And he says they feel more like a blindfold to the real world. I certainly agree with that. Whenever I've put on the 3D headset and there's anybody else around me, I feel that I've blocked them out, that it's alienating and isolating from our real life surroundings. Not everyone is going to want to do that. Long ago, I bought the 3D television headsets and the custom DVDs. I really wanted to like them, but I quickly tired of them. The guests quickly tired of them. And then they asked, can we just watch a regular movie and take these headsets off? Another thing we need to answer is why these particular platforms serve the experience and good of our guests. We've got to get to the why of it. Why are we here? Why are we doing this for academia in particular? And that's where some educators may have some worthwhile suggestions. I know you do here in the room. Rosedale, he also said, the cost of highly interactive virtual design is not going to come cheap, not to the level that students are going to expect that have been gaming all their lives. He says the budget for the video game Grand Theft Auto 5, well, that was some $400 million for one video game. And he says that effective, customized virtual learning experiences, they're also going to be costly. So what should we be doing then, according to Rosedale and Scoble? Well, he says this is what we should be doing. What we are doing here right now, right here, is a group of people hanging out and giving talks on a stage. He says this is where the simple, inexpensive, immersive experience will carry the day. And that's Rosedale and Scoble. Again, you can get access to their interviews. Also to, you can get a transcript of this session. I attended it. It was pretty good. Go ahead, check that out. You might get some interesting insights from these guys. They've been around. And this is the voice here of a university president that actually gave a $200,000 grant try to this stuff. He's been with National University for 1 year now. In disclosure, I've been an adjunct professor there at National for 10 years, and watching them as they try to lean into these new technologies. They recently released a nursing program, Multiverse, Twin Campus. We took a look at that. He has some interesting thoughts on the future of virtual world reality in higher ed. This is a very interesting article. If you want to get to the heart of what university professors are saying on the record and off the record, this is a really good article to read. He says he sees immense potential in these tools, but right now he says it's only that. It is potential. He's especially worried about the costs of gear that may further divide learners into haves and have-nots even more than we already have. He also warned against chasing this cutting-edge technology just for its own sake, out of fear of getting left behind or something. And he says that educators will need to determine what innovations are going to work based on facts, not based on who can tell the best story. And I've heard the presentations of these metaverse salespeople. They tell a really good story. It's very engaging. These days, almost every administrator has artificial intelligence on their mind as the top issue. I really don't want to dig too much into that, other than, already we can see admissions officers are going to be using AI to read the student applications that have been written by AI. So we're going to have AI talking to AI. And already even workforce demand is for AI jobs right now is so high that if you were to say you cheated your way through college using AI, that may actually be a talking point that would get you a job. Also, here is another thing we really need to consider. It's an article from VentureBeat, and I've seen numerous other stories along this line, that AI may already be going through a model collapse, is the term they use, model collapse, as it incestuously feeds on its own creations, AI feeding on AI generated text for ever more mutated output. We're already seeing this happen. So what we need to do is we need to keep our human communication skills sharp. There was an article in Fortune magazine just last week. It's the #1 skill that employers are looking for and that they can't find is communication skills, human communication skills. And they're going to become even more in demand as we lose those skills to AI. So by all means, keep your communication skills sharp. And also it may be a selling point on down the road, like we saw after the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly handmade clothing and hand-packed milkshakes, that the human touch, it became a selling point that this was actually touched by a human at some point. I think we're going to see the same thing on down the road for communications. You're going to have a premium you can offer if it is actual authentic communication-based communication skills. Here's some interesting data. It's from a recent survey published in the Chronicle of Higher Education on just what students are looking for now in this post-pandemic era. 90% of the students say they want to be able to submit their work online. 70% want recorded online lectures and online exams. More than 80% still say they want some kind of interaction where they can connect with other classmates. And they say not so much classroom lectures, but they want to gather for small lab sessions and group work and symposia and just chances to meet their peers and collaborate and maybe even party. And that's something that has really never changed, has it, in generation of students. When I was a college student, that's what we wanted to do. We didn't want to go to class. We wanted to network with one another and, meet in bars and dance and party. Well, that's also true here in Second Life, isn't it? And these are some of the wants that we can address as virtual world educators. We can provide these situations easily and inexpensively according to what the students are asking for. Here is another recent article, what students want from virtual learning options rather than remote learning and Zoom closing down the world. Actually, we found it was opening up. The world was opening up. People were easily gathering regardless of place once we figured out the basic technology of it. It was affordable, and we even saved transportation and babysitting costs. The students, they want a sense of presence. They want reactions as when they're in a room live together. And this is where administrators really start to listen. When they hear it costs me $100 a month for a nonprofit educational use in a virtual world, rather than the hundreds of thousands of dollars for a 3D metaverse experience, that opens their mind. But on the other hand, they think for $100 a month, how good is it going to be? If it's not $100,000, it couldn't possibly be very good. So sometimes, the bigger figure surprisingly is a selling point rather than the smaller figure. So here we are, we have colleges now trying to figure out what to do next. 40% of administrators, according to this article here, again, you can get this article from the Chronicle of Higher Education, just download the slides, it's hyperlinked. 40% of administrators say they're prioritizing their demand for online learning, especially serving older students demanding more flexibility. Administrators are aiming to find a balance between in-person and virtual courses. They want to find this by 2025. So right now, this is the time to be connecting with them, to shine, to invite them in, give them a closer look. at virtual world learning options, and that is what Educari is all about. It's a nonprofit. It's a very simple experience, so they can come in, check it out, feel comfortable, and again, a link, landmark is on the little slide here on the screen, stage left. Educare landmarks, if you want to pay that a visit. We have an article here just this month. It was about a study of university administrators on their thoughts about bringing new technology into their programs, such as us, and they're just not quite sure how to do it, what to do. They're excited about the new possibilities, but they don't have enough knowledge or data to make informed decisions, to make good things happen. They're hearing plenty of stories, plenty of sales pitches, but what it winds up doing, ultimately, it just seems to confuse them even more. I think they are resolved that changes are going to happen, whether they're ready or not. According to this article and the survey study, 80% of administrators say their institutions are going to be offering more technology-enhanced hybrid courses in the future. Almost all of them say there's going to be more class time spent using ed tech products. And this makes it the perfect time to educate them on the benefits of virtual world learning. That is what I'm trying to do with any ear willing to listen to me. And I find they are willing to listen. They are willing to pay a visit. But they are still skeptical. Here are a few suggestions to fellow educators as we are designing this virtual world technology. As we get ready for showtime, they're going to be looking harder and closer than ever. So first, we got to polish up everything, get ready for a closer scrutiny. Online learning is only going to grow now that we see how well it can work. The virtual educational platforms and programs, really, the biggest problem now is they need to better understand the demands of academia, especially these commercial operations, that there are limited funds available. What funds are typically going to be one-time funds? The overhead demands on students to learn new skills, they're very concerned about that. The Title IX horrors over privacy and harassment in virtual worlds, I can assure you that's very high in their minds. They read the stories. There's performance standards universities need to cover for accreditation. They can't get our credit simply for coming in world and, dancing. So I've been pitching this to administrators for years, and this is their typical reply. I'm sure you've heard it too. There's just too much development time and costs. There's too high of a learning curve for teachers and students, and there's just too little practical use. Well, that's what I'm hearing time after time. But the first complaint always, right at the top, is it's just not user-friendly to casual visitors, somebody who's just going to come in one time for a seminar. And I really, I got to agree with that. I do 2-3 presentations a week, sometimes even more. I can log into a large group presentation through Zoom. I do a sound check. I share a screen. I'm ready in 5 minutes. Or I plug my laptop into a lecture hall and a sound check, screen check, another 15 minutes. And we have nowhere near that efficiency in virtual worlds where, the 15 years I've been here, whatever I need to do, it's measured in terms of hours rather than minutes. And we really need to work on that. We need the accessibility of Skype, where a single step gets you where you need to be. We need the creative and simple filters of TikTok for design. We need the functionality of Zoom, where slides and video and audio files are easily shared with a single click. Some of this I think is already happening, but so much of what is still happening in this particular virtual world platform is the same issues that we were dealing dealing with 10 years ago. My advice to Second Life, please, academia is looking hard for a platform. I'd like it to be Second Life. I know Second Life. I love Second Life. I've been here for 15, 16 years. But, if we find another platform that serves the needs, I'm not going to hesitate to recommend to my administrators that we pick that up. I don't think we need to educate so much. At this point, we need to demonstrate. We need to bring them in. We need to show them. We need to make it obvious that this is something of value. And too often what I'm hearing after they've had a brief experience is they've come back convinced even more that this is just not ready for prime time. Here is something else that we need to consider. What's been happening in academia over recent years? It's been more of a morphing than a revolution or a redesign. The transformational forces have been long in play. Our senior educators in this room know that's true. Lower state funding, demographic dip in enrollments, administrators stressing over budget cuts and program reductions. These are forces that have been simmering and expanding for decades. And now the blinds on many of our social systems are being lifted everywhere, and we can see clear now just what's behind the curtain, can't we? One prime offering in the virtual world is this interactive immersion that provides this sense of place. One of the most memorable aspects of an education years after our education is over, it's the imagery that remains, the taste of the experience. And that's covered in this New York Times piece here, a very interesting article on place. And I think that's one primary reason why virtual worlds have proven so attractive to educators and students is our desire for company and learning. We want to look at each other. We want to see facial expressions and gestures, even when we're alone at our desk. And it's not just our desire for a sense of other, but it's also our desire for a sense of place. And that is essential. That is our value proposition, isn't it? And there is so much for educators to show off what we do and what we are doing and what we have done for going on 2 decades now in virtual worlds. Case in point is the Science Circle presentations year after year. For some 15 years, I've been with them. I've made a number of presentations there over the years. It's a true testament to what virtual worlds can do consistently with clear vision and good intent and impressive, immersive experience. That's what you're doing here right now. That's what the VWBPE does. It's what the Science Circle does. We need to do more of this. We need to make it more visible to outsiders and welcoming to outsiders as well. Here's another example. When I'm sharing with administrators, I'm talking about why issues, not how. The how is basically you pay the bill, it gets done. The question is why. And here's one thing I share is studies show when people have an immersion into someone else's experience, it increases empathic response. It's like experiencing what it feels like to switch gender or races or to experience life in a war zone or a wheelchair. That's a big plus we have to offer there. And this could be useful, for example, in human resources sensitivity training. Another value proposition we offer, visualizations and imaginings and projections can be so much more than just educational. It can also be formational and foundational. It's a low-stakes experiment with modeling behavior. And here's an interesting example on cosplay and the power of pretend. And it tells how heroic stories and pretend experiences create an emotional response of elevation. And there's a link here if you want to dig deeper into that. For example, in a virtual reality study, the participants who were given the power of flight like a superhero, they were significantly more likely to be helpful than those who simply got to fly around as a passenger in a helicopter. They got to feel a little bit of how a superhero feels in flight, and they went out into the world with a little bit more of the superhero mindset. That's called elevation. Fascinating article on that. We've known for a long time about the powers of visualization, envisioning ourselves doing something before we actually do it. Olympic athletes use it to pre-vision their performance. Here's an article on that, how this visualization benefits especially patients recovering from a stroke or dancers delivering their art. It's just simply thinking about it, visioning it in their head, and exercising the motor cortex with this visualization becomes even more important as we get older, this article says. So with virtual worlds, we're actually taking that visualization to a much higher level with a psychological projection into an avatar that can feel as real and like a being there, as users report in this article. Fascinating read right there. Also, here's two interesting articles from Inside Higher Education. Cuts in international travel, unfortunately, have impacted educational exchanges, international exchanges between young creative students all over the world. What a loss that is. So organizers are now trying out different online platforms to increase and improve international collaboration. They've been doing some of this on Zoom. They are also reaching out to populations of marginalized college graduates, historically marginalized. So they're also looking at technological advances to do that better. And hopefully we'll be seeing more of that. You know, one of the here's another interesting transcendent possible use of virtual world learning. The United States Department of Education has just recently, once again, made federal financial aid available for incarcerated students in prisons and in jails. And I think this would be open up an entirely new experience of virtual worlds for those behind bars, where they could project themselves into different situations, modeling different behaviors and outlooks with, of course, with the necessary safety measures, of course. I think there's some very interesting possibilities there. Wrapping up here, I promised I would be done at 4:50. I know you all have other places to go. Here is some access detail for our Educare campus. It's free access. We're nonprofit. Nobody here is trying to make any money. Nobody's trying to sell anything. We are simply, this is a chance for first timers to come in, check it out, pick an avatar. There is on this slide here, as well in the PDF file, there is a primer on first timers, how to open up an account, how to go through the initial training that we provide right there on our island. We have a nice little training area that they can do stress-free and in private. I think some of the easiest produced, the most effective, enticing events that we can offer in virtual worlds are seminars and lectures and gatherings where students can simply come and chat and visit with one another and socialize while they are listening to the lecture, passing notes back and forth. I've been presenting on different world platforms now for 15 years on different topics listed on this screen here. And, you know, and sometimes when I'm remembering a past presentation that I might have made to an audience somewhere, I'll have to pause and recall, was it a classroom? Was it a virtual world? The experience of it is really, it is that rich. I know I'm preaching to the choir on this one here. I see so many familiar names out there. You've heard this before. I really do feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Any one of you can get up and make a similar presentation. Here are some of the key landmarks. Please take a look at those. Again, you can click the little slide there, the sign there, stage left says Educare Landmarks, nonprofit learning resources. If there's anything there that you can use for your students, there's some pretty good stuff there. There is an orientation dome that provides a very simple, low-key orientation, how to chat, how to Zoom, how to change your avatar, how to make friends, resources for teaching, landmarks to universities and campuses already here. I have a VWEC landmark in there, I believe. The auditorium we have, that's the main place where the action happens. The main purpose purpose of our campus, front and center, is to hold educational seminars and demonstrations. It'll seat 100 inside, 50 is about the max. If you do pay a visit, there's some mannequins sitting in there just to demonstrate avatars in the room, so don't let that throw you. And of course, we got the prerequisite rides and fun. There's a media moon with videos and podcasts on science and international education issues. There's read-along books for English lessons, sit and play videos on self-improvement. So please do take a look around, grab a free watermelon drink at the beachside bar, and please also send me any notes on impressions or thoughts or anything that we might do to make it better. And that's it. Here we are at 4:46. Just a few closing words here. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to try to deal with those. Here is on this slide, again, available in the PDF file. It's a link to my research website. I specialize in transcultural education, trying to bridge the gaps between international students all over the world. I'm just a teacher here. I'm not trying to sell anything. All the resources we have available are open and free for international educators and students. Please go ahead, take a self-guided visit using the landmark. There's a primer that I'm glad to share. Here, I think I can paste this in chat, perhaps. Does it let me do that? It's a direct link to the primer. It was on an earlier slide. You can yes, it did let me present. There is a direct link there to the primer, especially useful for first-timers on how to get in, how to work your way around. Please do come visit. You are certainly welcome. And with that, I am done. I am willing to entertain any questions if they might be coming through. And I turn it back to our wonderful host, Nahi. Again, thank you very much to the Virtual World Best Practices in Education people for letting me come. And thank you, Nahi. I appreciate it as well. I'm going to turn off my microphone. I'll stand by if there's anything I need to respond to. I will. Thank you so much, Shiloh. Good to see you out and about. Thank you very much.